Shalom. Hello, dear friends. I'm going to make a instructional video on a Bible software program called Olive Tree. I've already done a tutorial on a different software program called eSword, which is free and available. Many resources also free for that software. I want to do this one because I mentioned in the previous tutorial that I have some software programs that I prefer to eSword, although it's really hard to beat the value of the eSword program. Olive Tree is undoubtedly my favorite. So I want to do a little bit of an instructional video on Olive Tree. I will be pointing out a lot of the advantages. I will tell you some of the things that I'm not particularly fond of, and one of those is the cost of all the resources. I believe when you go to the website and download the software platform, I believe that's free. And you may get a few free resources with Olive Tree when you download it, but most of the material that you will collect in your library, you'll have to pay for. And I have paid hundreds and even thousands of dollars for the various resources that you'll see in the tutorial that I've downloaded to use in my studies and teaching and so forth. So the cost of Olive Tree is something of a disadvantage. Also, one of the things that I kind of disprefer about Olive Tree is that they don't have any original language Hebrew resources for the New Testament. Now, that's not going to bother most people because the only original languages that they would be interested in, as far as the New Testament is concerned, is the Greek New Testament. And Olive Tree has plenty of Greek stuff, but they don't have any Hebrew translations of the New Testament. And because I'm a Hebrew enthusiast, studying the New Testament in Hebrew is one of my favorite things to do. So for that, I will be doing an additional instructional video on another Bible software program called Accordance that has a few Hebrew translations of the New Testament. So I'll be doing that a little bit later. But let's go ahead and start with our kind of introduction to Olive Tree. And so I'll take you first of all to the website for Olive Tree software. It looks kind of like this. I just did a Google search on Olive Tree Bible software. And I know in some of the search results there are ads. Just kind of pass over the ads and go to olivetree.com, and it will bring you to this page. And it starts out with the download now, the Olive Tree Bible app. That's your basic operating platform for this Bible software. And if you click on that, it will give you options, whether you want to download this for Android, iPad, iPhone, Kindle Fire, Mac, or Windows. Since I have a Windows computer, I downloaded it for Windows, and that will be the format that we will be looking at today. I also use an iPhone and an iPad, and there are mobile versions of this Bible software, which I use constantly. Use them a lot more than I use the one on my Windows laptop. But that's how you get to the basic program. And we will just, let me take a look at the basic Olive Tree Bible study software platform. And I think what I'm going to do on this is just go through all of the options. This is the look of the program when you'll get it. You'll also notice that I have lots and lots of resources downloaded here, and these are just a few of the things that you can get. You can see some of the things I've downloaded, and I've paid for almost all of them, most of them. Normally, I run this software with two windows. This one on the left is the main window where I have various versions, usually various versions of the Bible, although there are other resources that you can look at too. For example, I've got a download of the works of Josephus. I've got several dictionaries and kind of reference works and things like that. But normally I have a Bible version in here in this window. The one I'm looking at right now is the Tree of Life version. This is a Messianic Jewish translation of the Old and New Testaments. It's kind of a neat one. It uses the Hebrew names for all the people in the Bible, uses Hebrew place references and some things like in this verse that's showing right now. The word mitzvot is the Hebrew word for commandments, God's commandments, and where the name of God where God's special name, his covenant name, Yahweh, appears in the text. This version uses Adonai because the Jewish people are very hesitant to pronounce the sacred name of God. So that's the version I'm looking at now, and this window on the right is linked to the window on the left. So as I scroll through the text, you'll notice that the right hand window scrolls right along with me. So if I go forward or backwards in the text, this window normally stays with me. Yeah, there we go. The main window can be expanded so that it covers the whole screen like that. I'm going to have to move my picture here to get my second window back. Just push the arrow that way if you want the full screen of your main window, and then to get it back, to get your companion window back, you just push that button. This text that I have in the right-hand window pane is the Hebrew Old Testament, and if I shift to a New Testament Bible verse, then I'll have to call a Greek a New Testament or some kind of a commentary or something like that. So I might have to change that one. But this right-hand window is very versatile and will show some of the versatility of that. Let me just go through some of the controls and some of the features of this software program. In the Bible study icon in the upper left-hand corner, there are a number of different options. If I want to close the Bible, I just click on this and it closes down the whole software program. It's basically the same as clicking on the X in the upper right-hand corner. If I click on it again, I get Bible options, so I can kind of customize the way I look at this program and some of the features on it. For example, in the general options, it tells me the default Bible for hyperlinks, and the option that I've selected, I think it's the default, is the last opened Bible. So when I shut this program down last, I had the Tree of Life version in here, and that's the one that comes up again. And so all the links that I might have in the right-hand window, or even in this version itself, are linked to the last open Bible. Startup workspace, what I've got selected here is the last saved workspace. It saves automatically when you shut down, so I just assume that when I start it up again, it's going to have the same resources in the two windows. So you can open it up with a blank workspace, and then you would have to decide what you want in the two windows. I just go with whatever I had last. There are spell check options. You can either have it turned on or off. Spell check within the notes. This software gives you a chance to, as you study through the text, you may want to make some of your own notes, comments, questions, citations of resources and so forth. And you can either have the spell check for your notes that you create turned on or turned off. And then there's automatic sync. I think automatic sync is, well, it definitely is what I'm using here. And I think that is the thing that keeps my right-hand window synced with my left-hand window. And I believe if I would uncheck that, then I would not have that, feature operating. If I click on this tab, it allows me to change the color of the background. I think it normally comes with like a white background and black letters. So I have changed that in my text. I changed my background to kind of a tan color because, as you can see in the background that I've used behind my head, in like in this picture here, the text behind my head is the Melchizedek scroll of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it has kind of a tan color to it. So, so in my olive tree program, I like to go with the kind of the tan colors. And also I've changed the font colors to kind of a brown color, because like in the Dead Sea Scrolls and the ancient documents that we have, the ink is kind of a brownish color. It's not black. So there are also options here. You can have the words of Jesus in red, as I happen to have selected. Some of the resources that I have utilize Strong's numbers. And if in those resources that have Strong's numbers will show up in kind of a dark brown color. I think it's the same as the text. Strong's and Jesus words, I'm not sure what the difference is there between these two. Verse numbers appear in it's kind of a charcoal gray or black. So that differs from the normal text color. Footnotes, search hits, hyperlinks, these all have different color options. So those are the ones that I use. And if I click on the resource guide tab, it just lists the resources that I have downloaded. So I'll just kind of scroll through those. You can see how many I've got downloaded. We'll talk about some of those. The lookup tab here, I'm not sure what that is. Not sure what that is. And then the display and copy options for the display settings. You can, like for example, if I have an English text of the Bible that is linked to Strong's numbers, I can click this box and it will actually show the numbers in the text. I find that very annoying, so I have turned that off. You can choose whether you want the verse numbers to appear on a different line. I think all the old King James Bibles that I have, even the paper ones, start each verse on a new line. If you look at the Hebrew text that I have selected over here, each verse starts on a new line. Of course, Hebrew reads from right to left, so the numbers are on the right side of the page in that particular text. But in this one, in the English version that I've got selected, I've got verse numbers in the middle of paragraphs. So the format for Tree of Life version, as I've got it here, is to have verse numbers wherever they appear in the paragraph. I kind of like that, but it also makes it a little bit more difficult to find verses. It's much easier to find them if they're always on the left margin of the page or so forth. And then you can, like if you have a version of the Bible with translator's notes or parallel texts and various things like that, references, you can choose to hide those notes and highlights in the text. Also for copy settings. Now, if I wanted to, let me give an example of this. If I wanted to copy this verse and paste it into say a Word document, something I'm writing, and I want to have the text of Scripture, I would just highlight it like that, and then I would copy it. And then I would go to my document, and I would paste it into the document. And then depending on the options that I've chosen here, the text that I would copy into my document would include verse numbers. So it would have the number 25 at the beginning of that verse. I can also either include or not include the verse reference. And if I want the, like that would be Exodus 15:25. If I want Exodus 15:25 at the beginning of the verse that I copy in, I select that option. And if I want it at the end of the material that I paste in, I would select at the end. And I can also put it a place on its own line, and then the text would be either above or below it, I suppose. I've never selected that option, so I don't know what it looks like when you paste it into a document. And you can also choose to include the title. For example, some of these portions of Scripture have subheadings. This one may or may not, yeah. This would be a subheading, Bitter Waters Made Sweet. And so if I wanted that to show up in the material that I paste into a document, then I would include this, and I could decide where I want that to be. So those are some of the options that are available in this resource. If I click on sync, it is just going to harmonize any kind of bookmarks or positions that I've marked in Olive Tree on my laptop with my Olive Tree programs on my iPhone and my iPad. So let's say I decide to bookmark Exodus 15:22. So I hit bookmark, I get a little red bookmark there. And now if I sync this, that bookmark for Exodus 15:22 is going to show up not only in my laptop version of this program, but also on my iPhone and my iPad as well. So the sync feature is kind of neat because it syncs up all the different versions of Olive Tree that you may have running on your various devices. There's an option here for Olive Tree, the company that makes this software. Really, it's kind of their philosophy about why they do what they do, and some information that you might find useful there. Bible and Help, that takes you to their website, and you have lots of options you can choose here. So that's your support. That's your support mechanism for let me go back to my other share. There we go. Now we're back at the Olive Tree program on my computer. This diagnostics, I'm not sure what that is, but I think it's connected to the help menu, to the support menu. And then you can also check for updates. They're constantly, Olive Tree is constantly updating these programs. Clicking on that shows me that my version is up to date right now, so that's nice. Also, you can click on Go To, and that is going to allow you to go from one biblical text to another. If I click on it here, it just lists the books of the Bible. And let's say I want to go to Genesis 1:1. If I just put my cursor over the name of the book, it shows me the chapters that are available. So I can go to Genesis 1, And then I have all the options for the verses that are in Genesis 1. So I'll just go ahead and click on that. And that takes me to the very beginning of the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth and so forth. And my Hebrew Old Testament has gone right along with me because it's linked together. Now, while I'm talking about that, lest I forget, there's another way that I can navigate throughout the Bible. And that is by clicking this little icon. I don't even know what that is. But this option for navigating through the Bible gives me a chart, like a chart of the Old Testament and New Testament. So if I want to go back to Exodus 15, I can click on Exodus chapter 15, and I think that was verse 25 I had selected before, and there I go. Now, if I click on this again, I can also select the list that I showed you before. And so that's so those are the options that I have in doing that. I prefer this grid. It's called grid, not a chart. It's a grid. I like this because that's the way I've got my phone and my iPad set up. So that's the way I navigate through the Bible. And this selection of a Bible text is linked to, or it's connected to my left-hand window, my main window. And then, like I say, if I have my right window linked to that, then it will go right along with me wherever I choose to navigate. So back up here to the go-to, that's that option. I can also look at the history of the various Bible verses I've been to. So if I click on today, it's going to show me the different text selections that I've made in my use of the program today. So here's the one I'm at now. Here is Genesis 1:1 that we selected just a few minutes ago. And I can go back quite a ways, all the way into last year, the different texts that I have been to. I can also click on this and bring up my library. So, for example, if I click on Manage Library, then I will get this window, which lists all of the downloads that I have made. And I can right-click on these, and I can remove them from my computer if I want to. So I have some choice about the number of items that I have listed on my program here. So that's what that manage library is for. Select resource. If I want to use this icon to choose a reference for my left window, I can choose something from Bible Maps. I actually have 2 atlases selected, and I can choose to open up a map in that left window. I can choose one of the Bibles I have downloaded, commentaries, dictionaries. Let me go ahead and choose a dictionary, and that should pop up in my left window. And there it is. And then I can just do a sort of the last dictionary search that I did was on the city of Ephesus. I'm writing a book where I wanted to have a dictionary reference to Ephesus. So you can just type in up here in the search feature any topic, and if it's in that Bible dictionary, it will pop up. Now, on the left side of the page, I have a whole list of the references that I've downloaded. The last Bible I had in there was the Tree of Life version. So if I click on that, Tree of Life version will be back where it was before. But if I wanted to change this, let's say I wanted to look at the New King James Version with the Strong's numbers selected, I can just click on that, and then that text will show up. Now, interesting thing about this New King James Strong's Bible, and I have a couple others with the Strong's numbers tied in. Remember, there was an option that we looked at previously that said if I want the Strong's numbers to show in the text, I can click that option, and then I would have little numbers throughout this. I don't like the numbers showing, but I do like the Strong's feature in this New King James Bible. So let me show you how that works. If I want to know what the original language in the Strong's lexicon is for this word, this is the sacred name of God. This is Yahweh, and a substitution has been giving that to avoid offending Jewish people and those who do not believe that the sacred name of God should be pronounced at all. I can click, that would be a left click on this. It takes me to Strong's dictionary, and that is what the sacred name of God looks like in the Hebrew text of the Old Testament. And if I go over here into my Hebrew Bible, there it is right there. It's 4 Hebrew consonants, Yud, He, Vav, He. And if I scroll down through this, it gives me a definition of what that Hebrew word is. It's from the another root word. It's the Hebrew verb of being. So if I click on Strong's number 1961, I come to the Hebrew word of being, hayah in the Hebrew, and that is the root or the source, the origin of God's sacred name. Now I can click the back arrow and it'll take me back to God's sacred name here. And I can do a number of things with this. I can view the full definition from Strong's Dictionary or Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew lexicon, which I have downloaded. Or I can do some interesting things with this. I can search whatever version I'm in, so it would be the New King James Version, for all of the uses of 30, the Hebrew number 30, Strong's number 3068 from the Hebrew, and that would give me a list of all of them. So let me go ahead and click that. That's going to take a minute to do this because it's searching through the New King James Version. So here's that. And here they are all listed. There's probably thousands and thousands of them in the Bible. So that way they're all listed there. So I have that feature. I can search for Yahweh. I can search for I can either search for the number or I can search for the word, and it would do the same thing. Or I can look up Yahweh in that text. So that's how the Strong's feature works in this Bible. So if you wanted to have this New King James Strong's Bible, what you would do is you would go to the bookstore. And this, you would click on bookstore and it would take you to the web page, to the Olive Tree web page. And then you would do a search on New King James Strong's Bible. And it would show you all of the results of your search. Probably the first one that would come up in the search is this version that I have downloaded. I forget how much it costs. But to me, it's worth the extra expense. And you would want to be careful that you get the New King James Strong's Bible and not just the New King James Version of the Bible. New King James Version of the Bible is going to be cheaper than the Strong's New King James Version because the New King James Version doesn't have this Strong's feature where you can look up all these different words like that. Let me also make note of the fact that in my Hebrew text that I have here, this is the BHS Parsed Bible. BHS is the Biblica Hebraica Stuttgartensia. It's a scholarly version of the Hebrew Old Testament. It is parsed, and it also has dictionary definitions. So let me go to Yahweh again. Click on the name Yahweh. And in my Hebrew Bible, it gives the pronunciation of that word, same kind of features, definitions, and so forth. This is the Brown Driver Briggs lexicon, probably the most thorough and beneficial dictionary of the Hebrew Old Testament. So this text also has a kind of a lookup feature. You get to see what is embedded in this text behind the actual words themselves. Now, if you go to the bookstore and you look up BHS Old Testament, you can also get a cheaper version of this, but it doesn't have all the embedded stuff and all the information. So although it's cheaper, you wouldn't be able to look up what these Hebrew words mean. You would just be able to see the text. I wanted to spend some time talking about these versions of the Bible with Strong's numbers and with resources embedded in the text, because I think that's one of the most beneficial features of this software. So we've already looked at the library options. When you start using Olive Tree, one of the things that you might want to do is open an account with Olive Tree. So if you want to buy resources, they would have your email address, they would have your password on record, so you can gain access to your account, and then they would have information about how you've chosen to pay for the resources that you buy. So for example, if you choose to buy a Hebrew Old Testament with all of the parsing features, you would just click on that, and they would have reference to your credit card or your PayPal account or however you've chosen to do that, and you can just go ahead and download those to your computer. One of the things that I really like about Olive Tree is that if I want to buy some new books for it, I just go to the bookstore, and I can do that from within the software program itself. I don't have to get out of Olive Tree, go online, look up the Olive Tree website address and so forth. You can buy stuff right here from the program itself. And then there's also the store feature. You can go to the bookstore. You can see what kind of free books they have available. I'm never interested in anybody's free books because the reason they're free is nobody wants them. So I'm usually not interested in looking at those. You can also get a list of your purchased books. So I think the last time I used the purchase books feature was when I upgraded my laptop computer. And although I had Olive Tree operating on my previous computer, I wanted to load it up on this computer. So I just downloaded the software. I clicked on purchased books, and it took me to the bookstore here, and it shows me these are all the books in their bookstore that I have bought. And so all I have to do is, let me see if any of these, like for example, this is the Holy Bible, ESV, the English Standard Version. I purchased that at one time, but I don't currently have it downloaded on my software, in my library that I'm using. If I wanted to have it on my in my program, then I would just click the download button and it would download. But the reason I don't want this ESV in my library is because I got this one. And take a look here. This is the ESV with Strong's. So it's got that feature of having all the embedded textual resources and so forth that I showed you previously. So then I'll just go back to the Bible that I was using. New King James comes right back up, and here's my Hebrew text in parallel. Let me see what else we've got on this menu. I guess that's it. I want to highlight a couple of these features. This is just a list of the library books I have. They're conveniently listed in the left-hand column here, but I can select any of the things that I have. Right now, it's all books. I can click on recently opened, and these are the most recent resources that I've used. Or I can check favorites. I think you do something with a star here, and it just shows you the ones that you use most. Or I can look at them by category. I can look at the Bible maps, the atlases that I have downloaded. I can look at the Bibles I have downloaded, commentaries that I have downloaded. These are the most expensive things. I've got Linsky's commentary on the New Testament. That is a Greek-based commentary. It's 20 volumes. So you pay like hundreds of dollars if you want a commentary like that. Kyle and Dalish is also a commentary that I've got. Many, many volumes, very expensive to purchase and so forth. I've got a few dictionaries loaded up, a few original languages loaded up. I've got some study Bibles. These resources are not the full study Bible with the text and the commentary notes. It's just the commentary notes. And when you select these, you usually want them over here in the right-hand window so that they match up with the text you're on. And then ebooks as well. Josephus, the writings of Josephus, is the only one of those that I've got selected. And because I clicked on Kyle and Dalish commentary, it's opened up in the right-hand side. It would be interesting to know if this is linked to, it's not linked to the, so the right-hand window texts are, well, it is linked. So I'm going from passage to passage here in the Kyle and Dalish commentary, and my Hebrew Old Testament is going with it. So that's kind of interesting. Learn something every day. So let me go back to my New King James Bible here. So I got my Bible back in the window, my Old Testament over here. So that's the way you can look at your library. This I already showed you is a way that you can choose to navigate through whatever resource you've got there. This takes you through the Bible books and the chapters and the verses and so forth. The back arrows just take you to the last text that you looked at. Since the last text that we looked at was the Kyle and Dalish commentary, it takes me to that. If I click on the forward arrow, it will take me back to the New King James Strong's Bible. Now, if I wanted to go to a different Bible text, there's another option I have besides using that, and that is that I can just type it into the search window. So if I type John 3:16 and then hit enter, that takes me to John 3:16 in the New King James Strong's Bible. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. If you're watching this video and you have never received Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, he has died so that you can be a part of his forever family. You can be in an eternal relationship with him. So I encourage you to hit pause, pray for Jesus to come into your heart, forgive you of your sins, and be your Lord and Savior, and that experience will change your life. With that said, you may have noticed that my BHS Parsed Bible did not link to my choice of John 3:16 in the New King James Version. The reason for that is this is the Old Testament only. So if I want an original language text in my right-hand window, here is another way I can get to it. I can use this, I can use this, or I can use this. I can just click on the title of my BHS Bible. I can click on my library, and it is going to give me a Byzantine Greek New Testament with parsings. So I'm going to choose that, and here is my Greek New Testament to go along with um, my English Bible in the left window. Now you'll notice that it did not go to John 3:16, but this is actually Matthew 1 verse 1. So it opens up this text in the very first verse of the Greek New Testament. But if I just change the verse, then it will go along. So I just scroll a little bit, and here is John 3:16 in the Greek New Testament. So that is a good way to, like if I want to choose a different Bible other than Strong's, I can choose my library. I can go back to the, yeah, I'll just go to the Tree of Life version. There's my old Tree of Life version. So you can choose that way. You can also navigate through the Bible by clicking on the text reference in the Bible. You can choose Go To, and it gives you this. So if I want to go to, what should I look up here? Let's go to, I know, Matthew chapter 2, verse 23. This is a text where it talks about Jesus as a young child going and living in a city called Nazareth. In the Tree of Life version, what is it called in the New King James Strong's Bible? 23, in Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene. I wrote a whole book about this verse. It's called Yeshua. He will be called a Nazarene. And the conclusion that I've come to is that these references to Jesus as a Nazarene are not references to the city of Nazareth, but they are references to the fact that he belonged to a sect or a denomination of Judaism, which was a branch group of the Essenes of Dead Sea Scrolls fame, and that Jesus associated with the Nazarene branch of the Essene sect. And I prove from the Greek New Testament that most references that come across in the English Bible as Jesus of Nazareth are actually saying Jesus the Nazarene, the member of the Nazarene sect. So if you would like to follow up on that, go to Amazon and order my book, Robert Schreiner's book, called Yeshua. He will be called a Nazarene. You can get that for a small amount of money, but it will give you great insight into who Jesus was and why he did what he did. So after that little commercial, let me also point out a few remaining features. This one is kind of a handy feature. If I click on this little settings wheel and the letter A there, I can make my text in this window bigger or smaller, as I prefer. I can also adjust the margins of this window so I can make them narrower or larger. And I don't really know why I would want to do that, so I'll just kind of leave them the way they are. That feature is also present on the right-hand window. But let me show you some of the features of this right-hand window that might come in very handy for you. If I click on Resource Guide here, it gives me the various options that I have. I can just have a resource in here. Now, right now, I've got a Greek New Testament to go along with my English Bible over here, but I have some other options as well. So let me pick a reference from my library. I am going to go with a commentary that I like, and it is, if I can find it here, the Dake Study Bible Reference Notes. So here from the Dake Bible, and let me make that print a little bit smaller, are the reference notes from the Dake Bible, Study Bible. about these verses. Where are we here? I changed the size of the text, so it got me off my sync with this. Here's the verse we were looking at, Matthew 3:23, fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene, and so forth. So these are the study notes for that. So I can put a commentary in there. That was actually a study note resource. Come on, give me my resources here. Resource guide. That took me back to my, let me click library again. So if I want to change this again, I can do it over here. I can go to library. I can call up. So I'm gonna put an actual commentary in there. So let me go to commentaries, and I'm going to put that Linsky commentary in there. So there's Linsky's commentary on this same verse. I can also go to any notes that I have made. The last note that I made, this is just a collection of my notes, and it's not tied to the verse that I'm looking at here, was a comment on, it was just a note. I copied a biblical text into a note, and I entitled that note, The Healing Covenant. It comes from Exodus 15:26. I think that was the text that we were looking at when I started this video. So I can look at my notes that I've made. I can look at my stuff, which lists for me the different bookmarks that I have made. Here's my note about the healing covenant. Here's a bookmark on Matthew 8-15, various bookmarks. We started out at Exodus 15:22. I marked that. So if I click on that, it takes me back to Exodus 15:22. And then I can go back to my resource guide. I'm not going to want the Byzantine Greek New Testament since I'm back in the Old Testament. So I click on this, I go to my library, and I pick once again the Hebrew Old Testament, and there it is. If I want my letters a little bit bigger on this, I just click it, make them bigger. If I click more options here, it takes me back to this window where I get to change the colors if I want to, and some of the other options that were given. One other thing I want to mention to you is that if I want this window, this right-hand window, to appear in a pop-out window, I just click on this, and here is my pop-out window. This window now goes into this smaller window, and I can change the size of that if I want to, and various options with that. But let's say I want to change the resource that's in this window. I haven't done this much, so I'm not sure this is going to work, but let me see if it does. Let's say I want to go back to my Dake Study Bible Notes. So that changes back to, these are Dake's study notes on this text, notes for verse 22. But let's say I want to look at that window, that pop-up window that disappeared when I opened up something different in here. If I go down to my taskbar, I can see my pop-up window. So there, I just click on it, and my pop-up window appears again. And let's see, I think there's an option of moving this around. I know I can move myself around here. So let's see if I can move that. Yeah. So I can move this window, I can put it wherever I want. So I can save these little pop-up windows. You may have noticed when I click down here that I've also got a pop-up window for the options and stuff like that. So I can either close these out here, or I can close these out here in the taskbar. So that is about it for the Olive Tree Bible software. Once again, it is one of my absolute favorite Bible software programs. Hopefully by taking a look at some of the features of this program, I hope it's attractive to you. I hope you'll get a hold of a copy of this and use it often to grow in God's Word and be blessed. So let me say farewell by giving you the blessing from the Bible. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with favor and give you peace. Shalom.